Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Brewing Encore Street Talk. This is where we talk about some of the topics that have been trending for us over the past week and share our opinions and perspectives. My name is Susan Williams, and I'm the founder of Brewing Encore, and I'm delighted to be joined again by Mike Drak. Mike is the author of Victory Lap Retirement. Hi, Mike. How are things?
Not bad, Susan. Not bad at all.
Oh, good. Well, Mike, I thought we'd start off with a post that we published. It seemed to get quite a bit of traction, and you actually wrote it, and it was called Retirement Perfect Storm. And do you want to just kind of share a little bit about what this was about and why you think we're headed for one?
Well, really I have two concerns about, that came out of the pandemic, really, because I got scared because it gave me memories back to, I think, 2008 during the financial meltdown. And based on our experiences back then, we knew that older workers had a hard time finding replacement jobs after they were let go. And so they struggled. If you were lucky to get a job, it took up to 2 years to find one. And many times that job came along with like a 30% cut in pay or things like that. So it was very difficult for the older workers if you could find a job. And if you couldn't find a job, that meant you were forced to take early retirement. So financially, you were less prepared for retirement, and that retirement lifestyle that you fell into wasn't adequate, wasn't up to what you really wanted. So it caused a lot of issues or problems. So that was issue number one: is that people being forced into early retirement, being unprepared financially, mentally, and not enjoying the kind of lifestyle they want, which is significant. The second thing is what happened to the retirement portfolios because of the financial market meltdown during the pandemic. A lot of people, they got scared and they sold out and they took significant losses. And again, that's going to affect the quality, financially speaking, of your retirement going forward. So if you were a recent retiree, if you just say you retired a month before and there was that market meltdown and you got scared and sold out at a significant loss, well, that's going to impact the quality of your retirement for years and years and years. And that's why I called it the perfect storm, because you had these two huge significant events hitting at the same time. And many people are going to have a hard time surviving the storm. Right?
Yeah, it is. It's such a challenging time, like on so many fronts, and especially, as you said, people that are either near retirement or in retirement. And a lot of the choices are being made for them in the sense that some of these things they can't necessarily control. But
That's right.
as you often say, it's also a good time for us to maybe take a really good look at the things that we've got going, to try and help prevent these situations so that, you just never know when, like they're talking about possibly another wave of this or what may happen in the future. So, I mean, it's often a very good wake-up call too to really take a look at like your financial portfolio and make sure that it is aligned to be able to at least try and manage as best you can in sort of these situations. And this was unfortunately a good test for it. And then as for jobs, you can't necessarily always count on the job you've got. So maybe it's a good opportunity to also take a look at your skills and maybe if there's some upgrading or things that we need to be doing there, if we plan on working and making sure that we're actually going to be able to have those opportunities rather than like you said, being forced on us. So challenging times all around for sure. And my heart goes out to anybody who's truly been impacted by this, because the recovery could be quite challenging for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's going to affect a lot of people, and that's pretty sad when you think about it. And I think a lot of people are going to be forced into near poverty through no fault of their own. It's just you're a victim of timing and what happened, the pandemic, and it's all about risk mitigation. And like you said, to step back and learn from it and say, okay, how can I mitigate this risk going forward, knowing that there's an extended retirement risk zone. The 10 years before you actually retire and the 10 years after you retire can really affect the quality of your retirement. So these are things that you need to prepare for and have a safety net in place, or emergency, break the glass in case of fire kind of thing. So you can recover from it, because, retirement's supposed to be the best time of your life. And, to see it, be destroyed by these outside forces is just terrible.
Yeah, it is definitely a challenging and tragic situation for some, and hopefully we'll all sort of be able to recover in some way and get on with some sense of what we were hoping for in the future. Okay, now let's shift it up a bit. There was an article in Toronto Sun about people that are actually making fundamental changes to their housing to be able to age in place. Are you doing anything at your house?
Not yet, but I've been thinking about it. And, I think the best case scenario is to stay in your home as long as you can. It's important to look at all the different things that you can do to make your home livable. And as you grow older, right? Maybe getting rid of the bathtub and putting these walk-in showers with the no-slip floors and the extra bars and things. Even a bar by your bed to help you get out of bed in the morning. It's not a bad idea, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. Like I cringe when I hear people they're embarrassed to maybe need a wheelchair when they go to the airport and whatnot. And it's a change in attitude. Say no, take advantage of what's there, but maybe not rely on it, but have it in case of need, right? So it's just smart. And I think fixing your house up to make it, safe and livable for as long as you can is a smart move.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is actually you're starting to see a whole emergence of aging in place specialists who will
Oh
actually
yeah.
come into your home and take a look at your home and figure out what you actually need to change in order for you to safely age in your home. And their recommendations, at least from what I've been reading, is do it sooner rather than later. Like you don't want to be in a position where you're all of a sudden in panic mode. So,
Well, you don't want to fall and then say, hey, I should have had that, right?
yeah, exactly.
As a matter of fact, I looked at a catalog and it was like, a good inch thick of all these different devices and things that you could buy for the house. Even things that if you have arthritis, how to open a jar, and things like that.
Yeah.
All are things that were created because there was a need for it. And people,
And just getting back
and
to your
they,
point, just getting back to your point about people not being willing to admit that they need the help, there is
yeah.
actually, it was a study done, and so rather than fear looking older, they'd rather not use any of the devices or any of the equipment, which I think is so silly because
Oh, it
it just
is.
kind of feeds into that whole ageism model. Rather than taking the help when you need it or make your life easier, I'd rather suffer. I just don't understand that.
That's right. And you'll never get into that jar of pickles that you're dying to have one, right? Which is crazy.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. Like, there's all this. So they're saying that there's all this technology and things that are being developed, but nobody wants to use it because they don't want to appear to be old. Which I don't know. I hope I hope I will embrace it if and when I need it. So anyway, some things to think about.
Yeah.
And finally, back at the last topic, I thought we could touch on, and it's been such a strong voice around the world, which is the whole Black Lives Matter. I actually wrote a post on this because I was truly at a loss for words in the sense that I felt like I have lived a life of white privilege. I mean, I've definitely had some gender challenges, but from a color of my skin, I've never experienced that some of the concerns that Black people have, and as a result, I actually wrote a post on this. Do you have any thoughts on this? What are you thinking?
I read the post and it was a very good post. It was very honest and truthful. I love the quote from Nelson Mandela about racism is something that you're not born with, you learn, which was very I thought about it. I said no, he's right. He's a smart guy. And what bothers me is that we know these things are around. These things are bubbling under the surface. Racism is one that we've been aware of for years and years. But they pretend they don't hear it or they don't see it, and maybe they can just ignore it and let someone else fix it down the road. And it's wrong. And I'm glad that finally, people are starting to wake up and say, you know what, we're not going to tolerate it anymore. We're going to take a stand. And we're going to push back and we're going to fix it. And no, we're not going to let it go. We're not going to give up. And it gives you hope. It makes you feel good. And I hope they win out because
Yeah,
it's fixed, right?
yeah, I agree with you. I really do hope this is the time for change. It's been way too long. I recently saw, do you remember the experiment? What was her name? Sorry, I just wrote it down here. Jane Elliott was her name. She was a teacher that did that experiment between the blue eyes and the brown eyes to demonstrate discrimination.
I remember reading something about that. Yeah.
Well, I guess there's been recently a video floating around of her actually addressing a group of white people, and basically her question was, she said, if who would stand up if you are willing to be treated the way a black person is in our society? And
Yeah.
nobody stood up, and she said, I guess you don't understand. I said, please stand up if you are willing to be treated as a black person in society. And again, no one stand up. And so I just want to make sure I get this quote because I thought it was quite profound. And what she said was, this says very plainly, you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you were so willing to accept or allow it to happen to others. And I thought, how profound is that? We all know this is happening. We cannot hide our heads.
Exactly.
We need to stand up. And that's why I felt so compelled to write this post and at least put my voice behind something to say, this is not right. We as a society need to stand up. We need to call out injustice where we see it. We need to fight for everyone's equality. And
I agree.
so that's how I'm feeling these days around this topic. Okay, Mike. Well, as always, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Susan. Talk to you soon.
Okay, and to everybody out there, hope you found this information interesting. Check out our website for the topics that we're talking about, and we'll see you all again soon. Here's to living your best moving Encore. Bye for now.